Good evening, everyone. I'm Sean Davey.
And I'm Edward Smithrax, and we'll be your host for tonight.
So, that was a great entrance, wasn't it?
Yeah, especially the Vox singers and the dancers. Pretty amazing.
Well, Boone was wonderful.
Yeah, of course.
But you should see my moves, you know.
I'd love to.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight and, well, supporting our event and supporting our speakers, because you know we need it. But you know the drill. We need you to turn off your cell phones because it really interrupts through the microphones, and you won't want to interrupt any of these talks tonight because they're magnificent.
All right.
So, Ed, why don't you give them a rundown on what TED is?
All right, so TED is a nonprofit organization based on ideas worth spreading. And TED was established in California 26 years ago, and now it has grown worldwide into an organization that kind of bends the mainstream of ideas and beliefs in our modern world. So now, since TED Talk is huge, there are many notable names that are doing TED Talks today, and you could pretty much get them for free on TED.com. Yeah,
we have names such as like Bill Gates, Jane Goodall, Elizabeth Gilbert, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. We have Benoit Mandelbrot. We have Sir Richard Branson, former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and they're wonderful. And the three big events every year are the TED Conference in Long Beach, California, every spring, along with its parallel conference, TED Active, in Palm Springs. Now, TED Global is in Edinburgh, Scotland, every summer. So, if you guys see this, see these TED Talks and just a little taste, and you want more, just head on over to those if you have the money and stuff like that.
So recently, our juniors, were given the opportunity to create and write and present their own TED Talks, and the best presentations were picked and chosen for tonight. And what these students represent is people who think differently, people who pretty much don't ride the mainstream, and amazing students and amazing speakers. So we're pretty much up for a pretty amazing night.
Yeah, I'm really excited. But all the ideas and TED Talks made tonight were made by the students, and they really wanted to share them with you tonight, and because their ideas worth sharing.
Wait, so what makes an idea worth spreading? An idea about your friends, an idea about ideals, an idea about creating ideas. And we're pretty much here to see so many ideas, and we're up to such a variety of concepts and beliefs. It's going to be pretty exciting.
So who do we have up tonight?
First of all, we have Kimberly Remijan. So let me start off. So who here has played or plays League of Legends? Hands up. Well, I expect to see more because the user base of League of Legends players is, right now, it's around 30 million players. And also, there's competitions worldwide, and prizes goes up to around $2 million.
Ooh.
So I'm a League of Legends fan. I watch games, I watch streams, I read guides. I want to be good, but I still can't get out of freaking Bronze 1. Well, I think I know quite a lot about gaming, but Kimberly here is to prove me wrong.
How much do we really know about gaming? Kimberly Remijan.
Ready. Player 1. Blink, blink, enemies are approaching. Turn left, look down. Machine gun, shoot, blood splatters. Sprint and duck behind the abandoned car. Grunts come from behind. Triple jump into the castle. On a mission to save Princess Peach. Jump on approaching Goomba. Find the key. Unlock the door to Bowser's dungeon. Block, forward punch, backwards kick, shoot fireball. Fatality. Pause. Are you sure you want to exit without saving? My name is Kimberly Remijan, and today I'm going to talk about games. Online games, video games, arcade games, interactive games. In fact, who in here has played at least once? Look around you. Most of us have gone through that phase where one game has kept us playing until 3 a.m., and the only reason it wasn't 5 a.m. was because of the demand of an angered parent or spouse that we shut that thing off. So, Does that make us all gamers? When most people think of a gamer, one of three images usually comes to mind. There's the frat boy, who plays GTA and whose favorite pastime consists of late-night chugs. Then, there's the PC aficionado, who maintains a minimum of 24 inches away from the computer screen at all times due to excess weight in the abdominal area. And last, but not least, the devil child. Habits include aggressive eye twitching and shouting at mom. These are the negative connotations society has established to what makes a person an official gamer. In reality, though, being a gamer can be much more mundane. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines a gamer merely as a person who plays games. So in that sense, yes, we are gamers. But what is a game? Even strictly limiting the subject to electronic games, there are literally thousands out there in countless categories. When I was in middle school, I loved playing Super Mario 64 and Animal Crossing on my way home from school. Contrast that to League of Legends, where incessant keyboard clicking and blasting mythical creatures keeps my brother entertained for hours on end. The different types of games are endless. Just like we wouldn't walk into a restaurant and instantly deem it bad because we see a dish on the menu we don't like, we cannot talk about games as a whole as being negative. Yet, society attempts to defend its stereotyping with three main arguments. The first is that gaming induces violence in kids. True, the idea that violence is contagious is a scary thought. However, at this point, it is only speculation. Joseph Olin, president of the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, claims that there is absolutely no scientific evidence showing a positive correlation between violence in individuals and in the games they play, referencing studies from the Harvard Medical School Center for Mental Health, the British Medical Journal, and the Journal for Adolescent Health. Yet some people remain skeptical, as there is the misconception that gaming is a solo activity that leads to lack of social drive and skill. On the contrary, 500 million people in the world play games on a daily basis, with 45% of these people being female. With such a large and diverse population of gamers, gaming has now become an important means of social interaction. As of 2013, 62% of people play with others either online or in person. Companies have transformed their games from initially having no social contact to developing multiplayer options like chat and open mic. And gamers themselves have created a gaming culture where many share the same passions and interests, even outside of gaming. The final argument that the public makes against games is that it stunts brain growth and development. This could not be further from the truth. Many games require focus, split-second decisions, strategy, and perseverance. A study conducted by cognitive neuroscientists at the University of Rochester found that development of this skill set in the virtual world is transferable to the real world as well. With such, the claimed benefits go on and on. However, so do the negative perceptions that society has established with gaming, as I mentioned before. With games constantly evolving and becoming increasingly popular, perhaps in 20 years, we can be more certain of its long-term effects. But until then, we need to be patient. We need to be alert. We need to be open-minded. We need to rethink gaming. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin. Thank you.
That was great.
Yeah.
Well, what's the worst thing you've ever done gaming, Edward?
Well, I used to be like a hardcore MW2 player, Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty. You guys heard? I grew up with that game before I started having friends. Well, there was one day I was like so engulfed in a certain game and suddenly my screen froze. And I was frustrated because I died. Well, died in the game. And then I took the controller up, I opened the window, I just flung it off my building.
Oh, well, that's extreme.
Yeah. And then I was stuck in a paradoxical situation because I just recently threw my controller out of my building, but I still want to play. So I was conflicted and I was like frustrated. I was like, what am I going to do now? I don't have friends. I didn't even have Facebook at the time, so yeah.
Yeah, well, everyone gets like that, don't they?
I hope so. I don't want to feel left out, you know?
All right. Well, at least we have a new way of telling our parents we can slack off. Games are good for us. Okay, next up we have Katie Kim with The Art of Deception. That sounds like a spy movie.
Mysterious word.
All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Kim. I am 16 years old, and currently I am attending the International School of Bangkok. Now, before I get started on my TED Talk today, I would like to present a short little biography about myself. My twin brother and I were born to a mother who died giving birth to us, and to a father whom we were kept hidden from. Shortly after our birth, we were adopted into two very different families. While I was raised into a life of luxury and privilege, my brother, being adopted by our real aunt and uncle, was raised on a moisture farm. When I was much older, I had the opportunity to go on a great adventure and meet many different kinds of people, including my brother, who awkwardly fell in love with me, but thankfully, he found out about our relationship before anything occurred. Nevertheless, with my newly made friends and brother, we managed to save the galaxy, and I even learned to control the Force. Now at this point, most of you are probably thinking, wait, this sounds awfully familiar. And you're right. This wasn't a biography about myself, but rather an account of the fictional character Princess Leia from the famous series Star Wars. Now, if I hadn't mentioned terms that are unique to Star Wars, such as galaxy and the Force, would you have made the connection? Probably not. This biography that I shared with you was an example of deliberate manipulation through language, a technique that is used by the media so frequently and subtly that most of the times we aren't even aware of it. This is what I'll be talking about today, and specifically its usage in advertisements. Now, a very important fact that people often overlook or ignore is that the media is an industry based on one thing and one thing only: money. Therefore, the media often present misleading information and concealed truth to attract as large of an audience as possible. From the false lines of scientifically proven to the misleading art of euphemism, language and advertisements are all carefully constructed to portray a specific idea, but more importantly, to persuade. In 3 studies conducted by Scott Purvis of the marketing research firm Gallup and Robinson, 240 pairs of advertisements were presented to viewers, who were then asked to choose the advertisement of each pair that was the most persuasive. Here's an example of one of the pairs of advertisements used in one of the studies. Now, looking at these 2 advertisements for the same product from the same company, which is most persuasive? Is it advertisement A, which uses many rhetorical devices such as repetition and positive expressions such as America's most prescribed acid control medicine, consistently and complete heartburn relief? Or is it advertisement B, which uses no rhetorical devices and uses more negative phrases such as suffer and potential serious condition? If you answered advertisement A, you are correct. Advertisement A was actually one of the 120 pairs of advertisements that use rhetorical devices. These advertisements were found to have higher memorability and a much higher persuasion score than those that did not. This result emphasizes how rhetorical devices can be a powerful factor in persuading a consumer to buy or use a certain product. William Lutz, a well-known linguist and author, stated that there are 3 main rhetorical devices used by society, and especially by the media, to persuade us as potential customers. The first device is euphemism, or language designed to mislead, cover up the unpleasant, and specifically designed to alter our perception of reality. When I was a child, like most children, I went through a phase in which everything I touched seemed to magically break. Now, at first, I would shy up to my mother and say in the most miserable voice a 6-year-old can muster, "Mommy, I broke it." But as I got older and smarter, I found a way to avoid trouble. Instead of saying, "I broke it," I began to state phrases such as, "I temporarily dismantled it." And at that time, I didn't think that I was deceiving my mother, rather that I was explaining what had happened in less direct terms. But I mean, I was telling her the truth nonetheless. And maybe it was because my mother was kind, or because she was deceived by my cunning wit. But she seemed to yell at me less when I would replace the expression. This technique is most recurrently used in advertisements to replace expressions that are unpleasant rather than uncomfortable, such as in this advertisement for a car rental company. The phrase "used" is replaced with the expression "certified pre-owned." Now, these two phrases mean the same thing. They're both used, but they give off different feelings and emotions. Certified pre-owned gives more of a sense of dependability and trust because of its certification. This makes euphemism an effective tool in advertising. The second rhetorical device is jargon, or the specialized language of a specific group. Have you ever gone to the doctor's office and been given a prescription in which you realize you didn't understand a word of at all? This recently happened to me when I went to the doctor's office, and I received a prescription that stated, "Abstain from the aggregation of the intake of caffeinated drinks and possible allergens to alleviate arrhythmia." In this case, medical jargon is used, making it difficult for a person like me, who is not medically trained, to understand what was written. And in advertisements, this exclusionary language aids in attracting specific members of a group, while at the same time repulsing other members that might not understand the phrases given. For example, in this advertisement, phrases such as 200,000 CFM of air and cupolas and shakeout hoods are used, attracting specific members who understand these phrases, while at the same time repulsing average members who might not understand the expressions given. The third rhetorical device is inflated language, or language designed to make the ordinary seem extraordinary and the common uncommon. Coca-Cola advertisements are one of the finest illustrations of this device. Nearly every Coca-Cola advertisement introduces the idea that through the usage of their product, a normal, average person can become cool, popular, and the object of affection. And in this specific advertisement, it deliberately states that by merely drinking this soda pop, children have a much higher chance as preteens of fitting in and gaining acceptance. Now, has that ever resulted in that for you? All joking aside, due to the effectiveness of these rhetorical devices in persuading the consumer, language and advertisements are all carefully constructed to manipulate and to convince. And although language was just a small portion of the countless forms of deliberate manipulation, I compel you to look for these misleading devices used so cleverly by the media and to avoid being misled. Furthermore, I urge you to raise awareness of this subtle form of manipulation. According to Dr. Christina Blair of the Bowling Green State University, there are a limited number of studies that even recognizes the use of rhetorical devices in advertisements. The more we are able to bring awareness to this issue and increase the regulation of advertisements, the less we can allow the media to so easily deceive and manipulate us. Thank you.
Well, I feel violated, being deceived my whole life.
Well, how do we know that she wasn't deceiving us in a presentation about deceiving? It's like deceiveception.
That's too deep. No, that's
It's way too
far.
deep, man.
All right, next up we have, what do we call him?
We call him the Mozart of public speaking.
Yeah, Cole Whiteley.
Yeah.
He's renowned in our school for public speaking, do MUN and stuff like that. Well, today he's got his presentation called Structure, which is public speaking about public speaking. A whole new level, look at that.
All right. I planned for this speech. While I was planning for this speech, I received a lot of feedback. I was told that I should walk from one point to another point whenever I transitioned. I was told that I should keep my hand motions within the frame of my chest. I was told that I should start my speech off with a personal anecdote, like how I planned for my speech. Now, a lot of this feedback did help my speech grow. I presented my ideas more clearly. I captured my audience's attention, and overall I appeared to be a more confident speaker. But there was a point when I had to ask, what is this doing to my speech? It seemed to me that the emphasis of the editing process had gone from what I was saying to how I said it. Now, this wasn't the first time that I experienced this level of disconnect from my own ideas. I went to the University of Texas to do a speaking workshop, and while I was there, I was told that I shouldn't have 4 pieces of evidence because people seem to like the magic number 3. I was told that I can't be so passionate when I speak to people because for some reason I come across as angry. It didn't seem to matter if my 4th piece of evidence supported what I was saying, or if I was convicted about my idea. I still had to follow the structure. My ideas were being compromised by what someone else said that I needed. Now, I'm not saying that structure is bad. Structure helps things stay upright. And in speaking, structure is a foundation for us to build up our speeches. But it is not a point of how high they can go. At the point that we subtract from our ideas and plug it into a mathematical formula, we're no longer giving our own speech. We are filling in blanks. Now, why? Why has humanity's most powerful form of communication no longer about communicating with each other? According to an article from October of 2012 in the Daily Mail, people are more afraid of public speaking than snakes, spiders, heights, and even death. This means that people are more afraid of standing up in front of each other and sharing their ideas than ceasing to exist. So how this relates to structure is that there is a psychological phenomenon called avoidance. Now, what avoidance is, essentially, is that people will avoid situations of which they might receive personal criticism. So, what structure does is that it alleviates a little bit of that fear by making a barrier between the person laying bare their ideas and the audience. It is a crutch for the people who are afraid of public speaking, which granted is the majority of people, and the personal criticism that they might receive on what they are saying. Now, if our ideas is our presentation to the world, then what we say is important. If humans couldn't express their ideas fully, the world would be a very different place. Let's take 1984, for example. 1984 by George Orwell is a book that features Winston Smith, a man that can be shot or killed by the thought police just for saying what he thinks. Now, we live in a society of free information. I can say or think whatever I want most of the time. However, at the point that we edit ourselves because of our own crippling fear of what other people have to say, we've become our own big brother. The only censors is ourselves. Now, history has shown that the people that say their ideas, how they want them to be heard, do make a difference. In fact, the famous words, "I have a dream," were edited out of Martin Luther King's first few drafts. The only reason that he stood in front of his nation that day and said those famous words was because his friend Mahalia Jackson said to him, tell them about your dream. Now, fourthly, you can have a fourth point. You have an idea, and whether or not it's a good one, you should share it with the world. You need to be the person who won because they thought outside the box. You need to be Winston Smith and fight against your own personal big brother. You need to be the person who defies structure despite what other people say. Be your own idea. Thank you.
That was fun.
That one was intense. Yeah, I got goosebumps. It was damn pretty.
Such good speaking skills. It seems like I need to go backstage for one-on-one speaking advice time with Cole Whitley.
Yeah,
Whiteley.
Yeah, but he's pretty big. I felt like he could snap me in two.
Yeah, I mean, like a big guy, amazing talk, ladies. Cool.
All right, well,
She just got it.
next up we have Ryan Jones with Put It Down. He's talking about phones.
In my hand, I hold a device that comes in all shapes and sizes. This device will not love us. It will not reciprocate and tell us how proud it is of us. It won't make us dinner when we're hungry. I'm Ryan Jones, here today to talk about technology's impact on the world today. We are responsible for how we handle technology, whether we choose to make it addictive or resourceful. We should not expect technology to make us happier, healthier, and more productive people. This is Xavier Jones. No relation. He's 6'8". He's a starting center on his basketball team. Yet, he's not only renowned for his height, he's also at the top of his class. His coaches had high hopes for Xavier. They knew he was going places. After doing drills at practice, Xavier received a pass and tripped. He didn't get back up. Xavier had a stroke. Team stared in shock, turned to their coach, pulled this device out of his pocket, saved Xavier's life. So how did he save Xavier's life? You see, he had recently, in fact, the night before, bought an app called PhoneAid for $1.99, a CPR app in which individuals with previous CPR knowledge could refresh their minds and make the right calls when necessary. Because of his coach and this device, Xavier's alive today. So, I want to talk about another situation in which this device was used. Like Xavier, Savannah Nash was also the top of her class and a star athlete. She had recently just turned 16 and received her license the day after. You see, Savannah was dedicated to her family. She always put themselves before herself. After happily agreeing to get groceries for her family, Savannah, for one moment, decided to pay more attention to the keyboard on her screen than the safety of the road. Savannah hit the side of a truck. Next thing that happened, Savannah had died by collision through texting and driving. How is it that when we use this device, we can save lives just as easily as we can end them? Take Google, for instance. Put your hands up if you used Google in the last 3 weeks. Keep them up if you used it in the last 3 days. Okay? How about the last 3 to 5 hours? Look around. Are you aware that in 2013, 2.2 trillion searches were made off Google, according to Static Brain, Google's official history source? Probably thinking, what did I search in 2013? More importantly, how much of it have I been searching? Are you aware that Google is constantly selling your data to private corporations and businesses to digitally market? Pretty scary stuff, right? I mean, we can't just stop using Google. We use it for school. We use it to find critical information in short periods of times. I mean, who goes to the library anymore to look up stuff? So, at the end of this talk, I want you to walk away with 2 solutions. How you handle these devices when you're with others and when you're by yourself. When you're with others, you need to make sure that these devices are less important than them. Take this photo, for instance. What's the point of going to dinner with your family if you're just going to stare at a device and avoid social interaction? I mean, if we use our devices by ourselves, there's no problem. We're not offending anyone. Yet, we need to be aware of how addicting it can be. Many of us, including myself, convinced my parents to get me a phone by saying, oh, I'll need it with an emergency. So, what happens if you all have been playing Angry Birds and uploading all photos to Instagram for 5 hours, and you can't make an emergency call when you actually need help? Let's be more like this family. Instead of zoning out, we actually talk to our friends and family. Instead of zoning out, we actually talk about our favorite part of the day. Maybe what we learned at school. But we're not going to sit there and zone out on our devices, because in the end, what will matter more? Your friends, your family, or this? So please, put it down. Thank you.
That was great, but I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, well, my phone is kind of my family, so...
Yeah,
I don't
Siri
know what
says
to
she
do.
loves me. That's enough for me.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of love Siri too.
So, what do we have next?
We have Mac Rojanapian Zatit, and he'll be talking about censorship in comedy.
Yep, that'll be funny.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. All humans share something in common, and it's that we all love to laugh. In fact, it's programmed in our brains for us to enjoy laughing, and that's why comedy and the occupation of comedian had emerged in the first place. Now, as you all probably know, a comedian's a person who makes people laugh. And it's really interesting how the comedian actually achieves this goal of making people laugh. Because there's so many different ways, so many different styles, techniques, and methods of achieving this goal, of triggering laughter. But there's one dominant tool that the majority of comedians in the world use. Now, with the exception of Rowan Atkinson's character, Mr. Bean, the majority of comedians use words as their tools to make people laugh through their jokes or funny stories. And in a perfect world, everything goes great. The comedian's able to express all of his ideas through his jokes and stories with any word he wants to, or she wants to. And the audience who listens enjoys listening and laughs as a result. Everyone wins. But then there are these people who have the power to decide what words comedians can and cannot use. These people who have the power to decide what words are heard and unheard, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And they decide all of this for all of you on their own behalf. These people censor out certain words that they hear in the media, just words that they don't like, and words that are deemed as bad in society. Even if these words are used humorously in a comedian's routine as a joke, they still take it seriously and take it off the air. The FCC is just one of many examples of these types of organizations. They will hunt down every time one of these words have occurred in the media, and they will take it down and censor it. I'm sure you've all heard that before. But anyways, with that in mind, truly, the only lucky audience of a comedian has got to be the live audience. You know, other than being, watching TV at home, or like watching comedian on DVD uncensored, the live audience gets to see the comedian 3D in person, rather than being on a plasma screen TV 2D screen. But what's more important is that they hear every single word that the comedian says, uncensored, unchanged, unaltered. They get to hear the version of the routine just as the comedian had wanted them to hear it. And like I mentioned, there's also people who watch uncensored comedy routines on DVD or YouTube, like myself. But what about people who watch censored comedy routines on television? What about people who listen to censored comedy routines on the radio? They're being exposed to a fake, changed, and altered version of the comedian's routine, the version that the comedian had never intended for them to listen to. With that being in mind, it's actually really fascinating how much effort it takes to make a successful comedian's comedy routine. Not just the diction, but everything, basically the jokes, the story. The comedian has to master this through years and years of practicing and studying comedy. So I'd say that comedy is actually a valid art. With that being said, imagine if you went up to this painter right here, Bob Ross. Imagine if you went up to Bob Ross, went up to him, took away his paintbrush, and told him to paint the same exact painting without the paintbrush that you just took from him. Imagine his reaction. Well, if I were him, I think I'd be pretty angry. What you're doing for me is you're taking a tool away from me that I use to perform a certain job. I mean, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. That's my tool. And that's the same relationship comedians have with their words. To take away the words of a comedian is like taking away one of the most important things in a comedian's life. To take away that ability is literally so insulting. It's insulting to every single one of these people who've practiced for hours and hours and have written their routines for so long and have actually mastered the art of comedy over years and years of training. In fact, sometimes when comedy is censored, you won't even know what the comedian's talking about anymore. Because some of the words that comedians use that are censored are actually key words that are being censored. Please, let me show you what I mean.
Obvious, indecent, profane, obscene, blue, off-color, risque, suggestive, cursing, cussing, swearing, and all I could think of was shit.
That was George Carlin, one of my favorite comedians, and his list of the 7 most filthiest words he can think of. Did you hear the audience laugh? Yeah, apparently they heard something really funny. None of you laughed. None of you laughed. Because instead of hearing something meaningful that George Carlin had to say, all you guys heard was a 1,000 hertz sound wave that probably just hurt at your ears. It was pretty loud. It hurted mine too. You know? And with this, you can't even judge whether it's funny or not. You didn't get to hear the entire routine. So basically, your sense of humor doesn't even apply here. It didn't even have an opportunity to decide whether this was truly funny or not. And this is this is one of the routines that I'd like to call cripple routines. Because, like me, I'm a cripple. Being a cripple myself, I'm not able to do things that I normally can do. I can't even stand up and give this TED Talk properly. I can't even walk without my crutches properly. Look pretty silly, right? And that's the same thing that happens with a comedian's routine. Once it's censored, it's not the same anymore. Censorship in comedy does not make society a better place. I don't know why people think of it that way, honestly, because all that it does is that it gives new audiences bad first impressions of the comedian. It makes old audiences annoyed, knowing that comedians that are so great and so talented and can really make people laugh are being censored and not able to show their full potential to an audience. And most of all, it hurts the comedian. It hurts the comedian who's invested hundreds and hundreds of hours practicing public speaking. He or she has spent hundreds and hundreds of hours writing out comedy material, spent so many years practicing public speaking and mastering the art of comedy. It's insulting to even censor these words. Because of that, I think that the censorship of comedy, I think that the belief that censorship of comedy, which makes society better, is totally contradictory. What? You're going to make the world a better place if less people laugh? No, don't think it works that way. Because when comedy is censored, it's just nobody wins. There is no winner. There are no winners at all, and there's only left with losers. The efforts of the comedians are being thrown away, just indifferently, and the audience are being deprived of laughter. But most importantly, the art of comedy is being degraded. So, please, don't be that broadcasting executives who decide to censor certain words in a joke just because they're seen outside as something that's bad for you to say. They're using it humorously to make people laugh. Please, don't be that politician or lawmaker or whatever who makes laws about what words can and cannot be used and what words can or cannot be heard in the media if it's in a joke. And most importantly, please remember this from this TED Talk. Please, don't be that person who allows yourself to stoop so low as to be insulted by a word just because of its meaning without even considering what context it's used in, especially if it's used in a joke. You know? So please, be reasonable, be rational, and have a sense of humor. Just understand that words are nothing without the context that they're used in, and that at the end of the day, a joke is simply just what it is, a joke. Thank you.
Sean, you know what else I'd like to see uncensored?
What?
I can't really say, man.
All right. Well, you know what I love about that presentation is Mac's voice, because it's like super deep and like sexy, and like everything about it's
it
great.
took me so long until I could master the American accent.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of proud of it. So.
All right. Well, now I'm really proud of the first half of our event.
Yeah, it's
really
been
professional,
fun.
yeah. And I'm really proud of the speakers as well. But right now we have a break, and feel free to go outside, and down in the foyer we have food. And if you leave the theater to your right, there's bathrooms. They're accessible.
All right. So please, when you come back in, please make sure you turn off your phones when you come back in again. Also, the food provided is by our nonprofit ISB clubs. So I hope you feel not guilty for buying these fatty foods. And well, if some of you want to still stay in here, you could. There's going to be a TED Talk by Adora Svitak, and she's going to be talking about what adults could learn from kids.
Yeah, we have to reset, and so if you want to come in later, we'll have an announcement for you to come in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you inside. All right, thank you all for coming in. Please take your seats.
And let's make sure all your phones are off, because you don't want to miss the second half.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback, so.
Yeah.
Oh, also, if you have any food in here, you can't have it in here, so take it out. And well, that was a great first half. Now we're starting the second half, and with Val, you need to help me with this last name.
Yeah, Val Tananivit, and she's going to be talking about quiescence. So Sean, do you know what quiescence means?
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea as well.
All right.
Hi, I'm Val Tananivit, and that just now was 20 seconds of silence. An unbelievably short amount of time that caused many of you to fidget and be uncomfortable. Silence that lingers is deemed as awkward because we do not like silence. Silence scares us, makes us uncomfortable, and renders us at a loss for what to do and how to act. So what is silence? Silence is the lack of sounds. In the physical and external world, silence is the lack of shouts and screams and cars honking, music blaring. But silence can also exist in the internal self. It is the lack of influences of others, of thoughts, of perceptions as a byproduct of external factors. It is the ability to see something and not have a pre-existing value tied into it. Yet, everywhere we look, we see thoughts and hear thoughts and absorb thoughts. Silence cannot exist when the thoughts of different individuals are enforced upon us at every single moment of our lives. When, no matter what we come across, the message is already present. And so, like a rare, exotic animal, silence is endangered and is becoming extinct. Even though there may be no sound around us, silence still does not exist because sounds, in the form of other people's thoughts, are everywhere. And why? I have two words for you: mass media. According to J. Walker Smith, the president of a marketing firm, we encounter about 5,000 ads per day. Regardless of whether or not we notice and remember all those ads, they are there. Each ad that we see expresses multiple messages about the world we live in and tie values into everything that we encounter. In turn, those messages weave their way into our internal world and eliminate the silence within. They live, breathe, and speak to our psyche, changing us. You're looking at me now and automatically associate me with being Asian with my small eyes, black hair, and yellow skin. You also see me as a girl and associate me as being weaker than guys and needing protection. This is the result of media and its ubiquity, its infinite forms and connotations. It is everywhere. No wonder silence does not exist. How can it when the media constantly imposes hundreds and thousands of beliefs upon us in our daily lives? While the perceptions portrayed by the media cannot be physically heard, they have an enormous impact on us. Unconsciously, we are molded into who we are by the media and the values that it depicts. We are molded by the way businesses portray the world and their desire to make profit, molded by the way others respond to that portrayal, and molded by the way those others judge the people around them. It's as if there is constantly a little voice inside our heads whispering orders and directing us to behave a certain way. As a result of mass media, we face judgment everywhere we turn, in every breath we take, and every action we make. So why is silence important? Because this is what the lack of silence does to us. And this. According to multiple government health organizations, roughly 120 million people worldwide suffer from depression, and another 70 million from eating disorders. We allow the noises to affect us, to change us, to potentially harm us and destroy us. The messages from mass media have the potential to wreak havoc. People are not satisfied with who they are and feel the need to alter themselves to fit the standards of society. All this is the result of no silence. But why then, if silence is so important that we overlook it? And why then does silence scare us? We overlook the concept of silence because we do not even realize or notice what silence is and what the absence of silence means. And we have been without silence for so long that silence now scares us and makes us uncomfortable. We do not know who we are without the constant thoughts and expectations of others. Because if, at any moment, we are not judged and do not have to struggle to be loved and accepted and understood, then at that moment, we do not know why we do everything. According to Digital Insights, in a single day, 16 billion photos are uploaded on Instagram. How many of those are edited to look better? How many are hashtags to get more likes? We can no longer be who we are because we fear the noises around us, because we are willing to do anything to be accepted and liked. It is sad that we can no longer live without noises. Sad that we crave for acceptance so much that we are constantly checking for the thoughts and expectations of others. Sad that thoughts are no longer ours alone, but are the voices of hundreds of thousands of others. And sad that the media has taken over all aspects of our lives and that silence is rare. We can no longer truly be ourselves, and there is little time to think and reflect. And so I leave you with this. Let some silence into your lives. Focus on your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. Just you. Take a step back and look around. Realize that sometimes it really is all about you and no one else. Don't change on behalf of another, but for yourself. And for a few minutes each day, live without the influences of others and embrace silence. Thank you.
So I'm guessing quiescence means silence?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, pretty sure like half my teachers think I have the same problems in media. Like I can't keep silent. All right. Okay.
I think we both can't keep silent.
All right. Next up, we have Aoife Shahzad on a more serious note, especially for our international community, It's Middle Eastern and Muslim stereotypes in media.
All right, I hope you guys enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name's Aoife Shahzad. I was born in Pakistan, I'm 16 years old, and I've been going to international schools all my life. So far, I've lived in 3 continents and 5 different countries, and I've noticed that Muslims and Middle Easterners are almost always depicted offensively in movies, television shows, even in video games. Whether it's the Libyan terrorists who shot down the dock in Back to the Future, or a cutscene from Call of Duty, Muslims and Middle Easterners are shown to be violent, uncivilized, and unpredictable in Western media. And these endless negative portrayals range from silent movies and cartoons to modern-day blockbusters. Even Walt Disney's Aladdin contains stereotypical Arab personalities. In the theatrical version of Aladdin, the opening lyrics to the song were, "Oh, I come from a land far away, where the caravan camels roam, where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home." Now, of course, Disney changed these lyrics after the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee voiced their opinions, but they should have changed more than just the song. In one scene, a merchant threatens to cut off Princess Jasmine's hand because she takes an apple to feed a starving boy. Now, this man isn't the main villain of the film. He isn't even one of Jafar's goons. He's just an average Arab merchant. So when an 8-year-old in America is watching her favorite Disney movie and she sees this man pull out his knife to cut off her beloved princess's hand, she is going to think that all grown men with beards who wear traditional Arab clothing are aggressive, short-tempered, and will cut off your hand if slightly angered. For that 8-year-old who knows nothing about the Middle East, it may seem like the whole area is villainous and filled with cruel people. But in reality, it's a place rich in culture, with beautiful architecture, and all kinds of amazing people. Now, as I said earlier, I'm from Pakistan, which is in South Asia, right between India and the Middle East. So, of course, Pakistan and the Middle East have a few similarities. One of them is that both places are mostly populated by Muslims. So stereotypes aimed at the Middle East affect Pakistanis as well as other Muslims all over the world. According to research done by the Gallup poll in 2010, more than 40% of Americans admitted to having at least slightly prejudiced feelings towards Muslims. That's more than twice the number of Americans who admitted to those same feelings towards Christians or Jewish people. And it doesn't stop there. More than 52% of Muslim Americans say that government anti-terrorism policies in the US single out Muslims for surveillance and monitoring. This is my dad. He's actually sitting right there. Give us a wave, Baba. As you can see, I obviously get my good looks from him. He told me to say that. Anyway, my dad is a US citizen. Because of his job, he's traveled all over the world, so his passport is like this thick. Most of his extended family lives in the US, so every year my family and I travel over there to go visit them. But when we land at JFK Airport, more often than not, my dad is pulled aside for additional questioning. Now, these searches are supposed to be random, but according to Pew Research Center, more than 21% of Muslim Americans claim to have been singled out by airport security. That's not random, that's racial profiling. Because my dad is a Muslim, middle-aged male who was born in Pakistan and has an Arabic name, he is automatically a suspect. And not only is he a suspect, but he is a victim of Muslim and Middle Eastern stereotyping. Now, stereotypes aren't always bad. Generalizations help us know what to expect when we meet someone or go somewhere new. But when exaggerated negative images of a person override the positive images, it can be damaging. According to research done by Jack Shaheen, a professor at Southern Illinois University, out of 1,000 films from 1896 to 2007 that contained Middle Eastern references, 12 were positive, 52 were neutral, and over 900 were negative. Aladdin was one of the positive ones. As members of an international school community, we are taught to be accepting and tolerant towards every religion, culture, and belief. So when we see Hollywood openly offend Muslims and Middle Easterners, shouldn't we be doing something about it? As Elie Wiesel said, to remain silent and indifferent is the greatest sin of all. So when you're sitting at home watching television and you see a Middle Eastern stereotype, contact the media outlet and speak out. If you're watching television and you see an African American stereotype, contact the media outlet and speak out. If you're watching television and you see a Southeast Asian stereotype, contact the media outlet and speak out. If you're watching television or a movie or playing a video game that contains any kind of stereotype, please contact the media outlet and speak out. Because if we, as members of an international school community, don't help put an end to these hurtful images, then who will? Thank you.
That was a great talk, and it's really relevant to our international community.
Yeah,
Good thing we have the students we have at ISB.
Yeah, I feel like our student body is pretty together no matter where we come from.
But next up, we have Sam McPherson, so on the decay of morality. And do you think our morality has decayed over time?
Well, that's if you're saying we have morals in the first place, Sean.
That's right. Yeah, we don't. All right, thank you. I mean, watch.
Good evening. My name is Sam McPherson. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the decay of morality in society. How many of you have heard of old TV shows like Little Rascals? Come on, raise your hands. Anybody? Yeah? What about Leave It to Beaver? There's another classic. Hands Up for Gilligan's Island. There we go. Now, as you may remember, back then, the most profane statements on television were, "Aw, shucks," and "Gee willikers." Things have changed a lot since then. Here's a clip from a more recent film entitled Ocean's 12, released in 2004. This clip is a comical message from the director about the increasing use of profanity in our generation. He intentionally censored out the profane language to not only keep the movie family-friendly, but to send an important message as well.
This don't bother you? Of course it bothers me, mate, but what the do you want me to do about it? Well, it's up. You can't hear none of the lyrics. You can't even get with the beat with all them bleeps in it. If you want to sing it on the radio, this is what you're going to have to do. Well, it's isn't it? It's totally right. It's What the is that? Somebody must be in too.
Even here at ISB, we are constantly bombarded with foul language from those around us. A words, F words, B words, H words, you name it. I've heard it, and I'm sure you've heard it. And why? Why is the use of such language so common? A recent report from Stanford University shows that the majority of what we learn in the first 10 years of our life comes not from our parents, not from our teachers, but from what we see on TV. This means that a majority of our language is derived from what we see on TV. And as you may have noticed, what's on TV is not the same as it was 25 years ago. It is absurd the amount of vulgar language present in movies and TV shows today. And our language isn't the only thing that's suffering. Our perception of modesty is slowly worsening as well. 100 years ago, a woman showing wrinkles was beyond promiscuous. 80 years ago, that moved up to well above the knees. Then, in 1946, the foundation of society was rocked by the release of the bikini. Mechanical engineer Louis Réard borrowed the name for the bikini design from Bikini Atoll, where post-war testing on the atomic bomb had taken place. As you can imagine, people exploded in response. Society was shocked. They viewed the bikini design as beyond scandalous. Just when Réard thought his design was going to go down in flames, movie stars and models began to wear the design, appearing in advertisements in movies. And as a consequence, the design became gradually more and more popular. Nowadays, you go to any beach, and I guarantee you'll find loads of women, and maybe a few men, dressed in bikinis. And finally, our image of beauty has shockingly deteriorated over the years. The media floods us with images and films filled with supernaturally perfect people. In 2013, Wolverine, for example, Hugh Jackman's bulging biceps turned the eye of every viewer. But here's an interesting catch. Before any model's face appears on the cover of a magazine or an actor on the theater screen, they're put through hours of scrutinizing from makeup artists and hairstylists. Then, a computer animation specialist goes to work for hours more until the person is barely recognizable. It's no wonder why our perception of beauty is so distorted. You in the front row, you're probably thinking something like, so what? Why is this so bad? It places unbelievable pressure on the rising generation to achieve the media's interpretation of the perfect body. Deborah Tramp from the Journal of Consumer Research says that advertisements promoting beauty-enhancing products rather than problem-solving ones are likely to remind us of our own shortcomings. This is the source of many disorders such as depression, anorexia, bulimia, and so on. Now back to Wolverine. Now, I'm sure more than a few were probably thinking, gee whiz, look at those muscles. But an inside look on his diet revealed what he had to go through to achieve the media's interpretation of the perfect body. He ate well over 7,000 calories every single day. That's a meal planned every 2 hours. From personal experience, I've found that teenagers like myself torture themselves mentally and physically to achieve the media's interpretation of the perfect appearance. As I've shown you here today, the media has lowered its standards concerning what is and what isn't appropriate. And as a consequence, our standards have been lowered as well. The only way to help prevent depression and repair our deteriorating language is to repair our perception of morality. I'm not asking for rebellion. I just want you to be aware. Keep your language in check. And the next time you see a beauty ad or a fitness magazine, keep in mind, they most likely aren't showing the full truth. Thank you.
I mean, talking about awareness, I was getting tired, like, filtering out all the inappropriate jokes in my head while I'm sitting down over there.
Yeah, we had a lot. We had a lot.
Had
to cut them. Next up, we have Seal.
And she'll be teaching us how to not pick up girls.
Last name.
Oh, Seal Siribasset. Yeah.
Gotta listen, Edward. Gonna have to learn from this one.
Yeah. You too.
Hi, I'm Seal. I'm 16. I'm really cold. And today I'm going to be teaching guys on how not to pick up girls. So, 2 weekends ago, I was standing outside a Japanese bistro waiting for a taxi. So imagine it's 9 p.m., dark, I'm standing on the side of the road next to my 5'2" friend. And suddenly, 2 men on a motorcycle swerve by, stop right in front of us, yell, woohoo, and then drive off. Funny, right? But I felt as if I was being undressed by strangers decades older than me at 9 p.m. on the side of the road. And just last weekend, I was walking from Subway back into Nichida, and I hear I turn to my left, assuming it was a cat, and I see an old man smirking at me. And just 2 days ago, after practice, I was walking my dog outside the US Embassy compound, and I hear... Confused whether this noise was addressing me or my dog, I turn around and I see 10 pairs of construction worker eyes leering in my direction. The truth is, none of these men called me sexy. None of them asked me to go home with them. None of them asked me for my number. They didn't call me any misogynistic terms, try to touch me, or sexually insult me in any way. Instead, what they did was use animalistic noises to communicate dirty and sexual motives. These men call out to women like me as if we are an inferior group of humans pleading for male approval, as if we are exclusively toys for male eyes, male hands, and male manipulation. These noises turn women into this transparent object of sexual beauty and desire. By whistling, hooting, and hollering, they were still communicating an idea. It doesn't matter that they didn't use words recognized in the English dictionary. People think by sounding something out and rather saying it, they're getting away with it, but they're not. It's still communicating this idea of verbal harassment. While researching my topic, I stumbled across the works of a man called Jason Kurtz, and he said something very interesting. He said, when we think of racial issues in the US, we think of Latino, Black, or Asian issues. So, I released a survey a couple weeks ago, and this was a survey to the high school students, and these are responses from both males and females for ages 14 to 18. When I filtered out the survey about who had ever been catcalled, you can see more than 80% of these responses you can see around 50% say no. How can you quantify and qualify what is the right manner for each individual? How can you say that, yes, if I catcall that person, it's okay, and if I catcall that person, it is? In this conference, they created 8 different development goals. The first, eradicate extreme hunger and poverty. The second, achieve universal primary education. The third, promote gender equality and empower women. This came above, reducing child mortality, improving maternal health, and all these important development goals. And this is because when you empower women and promote gender equality, there are better social circumstances. But how can we do this when even the most developed parts of our society, like ISB, that I want to grow up in? But this is. I'm 16. But not even the wealthiest of places and powerful people can protect me from being exposed to some form of inequality. So what is it like for that petite Indian woman to board the bus to her night shift? And what is it like, even for my best friend, to commute to school within Bronx? This would be it. Thank you.
That was great. I really get where Steele's coming from. It's like every time I walk into a room, girls are always catcalling me, well, whistling. It's like, not a piece of meat,
Yeah, I
you know?
can see when Steele was pointing up there towards Whit. This is a student-led event, so, I mean, we're asking for a favor and you guys are delivering it perfectly.
Next, we want to thank the introduction, of course. The Vox Choir was great, spot on with the King's Anthem, and the Magnificent Boon with a great backflip.
Great backflip.
Who else do we have to thank?
Oh, yeah. So we also have to thank Mahidol University. They came to ISB to document our TED Talk tonight, and they also did the TED Talk last year as well, and it came out really professional. The film of our TED Talk will be available on our e-news sometime next week.
We also have to thank the teachers, of course, Ms. Steffen, Mr. Augustine, Mr. Duffy, Mr. Brzezinski, because they really got us into it. They told us how to do it. They taught us it all, so it wouldn't be possible without them.
And most importantly, I'd like to thank Mr. Bell for organizing this and helping us become the MCs we are today.
Yeah. Can't forget Mr. Bell, because he's great. He
an
did so
amazing
much
ride.
work for it, yeah.
So, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. We also have to thank you guys. I forgot about that. We have to thank the audience for coming out, of course. We have to thank them. All right, well, right
so
now,
we'd like to invite the people who presented their TED Talks up on stage.
Yeah.
So, and feel free to take photos with us.
What?
And feel free to take photos with us, beautiful MCs, and also the beautiful people behind me. Where's the others?
That must be yours. What did it say? That must be yours. Am I on mic right now? Can you hear me? Am I on mic? I am on actually.
Yeah, you're gonna lie. Guys.
What? Oh.
Come come.
Feel free to take photos of all the TED Talkers, and, well, I guess you don't want to take photos of the MCs, but yeah. While this is going on, we'll have a TED Talk playing by Mark Bessos, a life lesson from a volunteer firefighter. So that'll be great. All right. Good night. Thank you.